Morning and welcome to Haventree Parent Podcast, where we get a chance to talk about something that's important to us and to you before our kids wake up.
Today we are answering the question, why did you want a large family?
All right, like she said, today we're going to talk about why we wanted a large family. And I think both of the answers are going to be different for both of us, or just the topic as it goes.
Yeah.
It should be interesting today.
Do you want to go first? Otherwise, I'll start in and then you'll get distracted.
I know. So
I think the interesting thing, truthfully, is that we both wanted large families before we met each other.
right, and I can't say that there was ever a number in my mind. I know I can say that I at least wanted 3 to 4 in the beginning before getting married and was thinking about future life when I have a family and settle down for that. 3 or 4 sounds like a good number. That I grew up with 2 sisters, and there's 3 of us, and that was, I don't know, seemed right. I knew I would have loved to have a brother, so I was always give my parents a hard time about that. So thanks, Mom, for never giving me a brother. No, it wasn't really a choice. So how those things roll out. But that was definitely one of the things that motivated me to make sure that we tried enough to at least have 2 of each kind of thing, because I know that there's the family motto of you have 1 of each and you're done, right? So you have a boy, you have a girl, boom, good. And we could have stopped there.
Yeah. I mean, biologically our kids have been every other, so
right.
Biologically we've had girl boy, now another girl,
right? And I would say that the ability or the desire to when we were dating, we talked about having a large family, and still that number probably was, like I said, 4-ish in my mind. But we had, when we were after we had our Adri and just seeing how that process was going and becoming an actual parent and learning the early stage ropes of I don't know. I was never a babysitter, so I babysat my sisters, but that's different than actually babysitting a baby that you have to change a diaper with. So I think my babysitting was I don't know, teen and preteen years kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was just watching your
manage the house and
being responsible.
Yeah, just learning responsibilities. It wasn't
taking care of babies,
taking care of somebody that actually depended on you or something like that. So, I think once I became a parent and I don't know, got that experience, I relied on Katie probably for the first year and a half, if not even still to today, of just what we needed to do and how to approach parenting topics. But I was gonna say the one word that came to mind for when I knew we were going to talk about this today was just that parenting for me has given me, I guess, the meaning of life almost, as far as purpose and having a purpose and feeling like my purpose is for them and to show them who they need to be and how to be a part of this world. And that was something I think, I don't know, that's hidden in the message to everybody about becoming a parent or facing the world and the challenges that we all have to face, and raising kids in the midst of all that. I don't know, I like thinking of it as they're my purpose for everything that I do, work, fun things and experiences and whatever. I want to do it for them. I want them to experience whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think thinking about kids as your purpose, in that too, thinking of them as, or thinking of it as giving them or passing that on to them, too, is such a cool thing to think about, and something that you've talked a lot about too. It not just that they are the reason you do what you do and they are sort of your motivation, but then also that we get to share that with them, and get to share our passions and our interests with them, and let them, take that and turn it into what's theirs, and carry that into the future, is really cool too.
Yeah. One of the other things I just read a quote from, I don't know if it was just a parenting group or something I follow. And the quote basically was I guess it's probably my dad's group, because the guy was my wife recently said, now that we have kids, we're here to be their be there for their memories or something like that. And so it was just sort of like, I don't know, just a cool way to look at it. And, you know, still with like that, where the purpose is for us to give them the experiences and the things that they need to just think back on as they go through whatever they're going to face.
Yeah.
You know, which, I mean, I don't know. It's also a sad way to think, because you don't want to, you'll be like, well, someday I'm going to be gone and I'll just be a memory. But, you know, it is also almost true, or at least you want to have them have good memories of you. So, or at least, you know, hope that they think of you well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the good times or whatever. So yeah, I think that's, I don't know, that like I said, that was the one phrasing that came up, was just like, just finding purpose of being a parent. And I know our parenting sort of shifted in the middle probably of like our early stages of parenting, because it was like we had our 3 almost on that cusp of 4, and then 2 more show up, and we have the expansion pack. And
yeah, we went like from 3 to 5 very
3
quickly.
to 5, and that was a little bit of, okay, now we are going from like zoned or whatever you call it, or man to man to zoning. So it was, you know, a little bit, I don't know, because people were double the ages, so it was like we had 2 sets of twins, and it was just an extra crazy year and a half of time or whatever. You know, but I think that also showed us that we were capable of it. And that, you know, just brought that encouragement. And as they're getting older, obviously, what we've shared before, like now they're able to help tasks and just help the house stay managed. I know people say things get a lot more crazy, especially once you get into extracurriculars, which obviously for 2 years we've been staying outside of. So we haven't done that yet. But I can't wait for exploding out of here, like we were talking about last week. So.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, you mentioned sort of our expansion pack, as you've always lovingly referred to them. But but I think that like once we went from 3 to 5, you know, and our 2 little extras came, it was crazy and overwhelming. You know, our kids then were 5, no, they weren't. They were 4, 3, 2, 7 months and 5 months, you know, when our 2 nieces came to stay. And so there were a lot of days that I would sit on the floor and cry with 2 or 3 of the kids, you know. We had 5 kids that were 4 years and younger. And it was hard, you know. It was hard to do. But it also, I think, like looking back on that time, we also both just had this sense of like, this is hard. It's crazy. It's not what normal people do, you know, or what most people do. And people kind of were like, I don't know how you guys are doing it and whatever. But it was also like, this is sort of what we were put on this earth to do. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a doubt in my mind, even though it was difficult, you know, and overwhelming and scary and emotional. It was also, there was just such a sense of like, this is what we were made for, you know, like our skills and our talents and our abilities, like we were made to love these babies, you know, and manage this chaos and raise them and teach them. And it was, you know, just a very interesting, like, you know, thinking about purpose in a different way. Like this is our purpose, you know, is to do this and love these little tiny people, on their good days and their bad days, and teach them, you know, and especially, you know, with the expansion pack, give them new experiences and provide them with opportunities that they hadn't had before they came to us, or, you know, make sure that they were getting the therapies and education and opportunities that they needed, that they hadn't been able to get before that. You know, this is what we were put on this earth to do, you know, is to, you know, and this is why we were put together. You know what I mean? Like sort of, excuse me, like the way that we work together, you know, the way that we operate as a team. You know, it was like all of the pieces just kind of fit into place, and it was just, this is right. Like, this is what we were meant for, sort of. And so it was a cool, I think it was the first time that I kind of recognized that and felt that, just complete sense of like, yeah, it's nuts. You know, our life is a party. Our life is a zoo. Our life is chaos. Our life is loud. And that is what it's supposed to be for us.
Right.
And it's not supposed to be that for everybody, you know, like some people, one child is, you know, what they can handle. That's what God intended for them, whatever, you know, you want to say. So we certainly are not of the mindset that big families are for everybody. But I think, you know, it really was such an awesome experience. Like now looking back and thinking about it, where, you know, it was kind of sort of that confirmation of like, yeah, we've talked about having big families. You know, we've talked about, you know, having lots of kids someday. But once we were kind of thrust into that, we knew that there's no turning back, that was it for us, which is kind of cool, you know. I think backtracking then, you know, it's interesting, you know, I'm the oldest girl sibling, you know, I'm the oldest child, one of the oldest grandchildren, you know, so there are also lots of younger cousins running around. And so I was around babies a lot, taking care of babies a lot, you know, holding babies and playing with the younger kids and things like that. I come from a family of 4. Something Josh didn't mention is that there's kind of a big age gap we're both oldest children, but there's kind of a big age gap between us and the next child. So, you know, in my family, there was a big gap. And then my 2 sisters who come after me are 13 months apart. So they were like, you know, little best pals. And then my youngest brother came when I was 11. And then Josh, for you, you know, you have, you know, a similar gap. And then your 2 sisters are like 2 years apart, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, partially by nature of like you being the boy and then having a gap and then 2 girls. So we both also kind of had an experience of being like the odd one out in some ways. And that's not to say like, oh, we were the black sheep or we felt left out or things like that, because that's not at all what I mean by that. Right. I just, no. I mean that we both kind of had experience of being able to see our siblings being very close to each other, you know, but we didn't always feel like we were included in their fun and games or siblingness or special bond that they had. You know, we kind of were an observer of that sibling relationship that they had. And, you know, ironically, both of our parents, both of our moms experienced a loss after our birth, you know, right, and so that's part of the reason that there was that gap for, you know, for the age difference there.
No fault on attempts.
Right. No, like our parents weren't intending like one kid, oh yeah, 4 years later, maybe I'll have another like that, you know.
I will say that we've met people that have had like that, like
bigger gap.
10 or bigger gap. And it's like, you know, oh yeah, well, we have a 17-year-old and a 1-year-old. And it's like, that seems ridiculous. But now we have an 8-year-old and we'll have a 1-year-old. Yeah. So it'll still feel like we had a 10-year spacing. But.
So, you know, because of our experience though, we both really wanted to, you know, do what we could to make sure we had kids that were close in age. You know, we didn't want to have, and like I said, our parents didn't want or intend for that to happen kind of the way it did. It just is kind of a shared experience that we both could say, looking back, like, I don't really want this to be the opportunity that, or the experience that our kid has if we can avoid it. And so, you know, so we both kind of had that,
and our
perspective.
Our loss, our miscarriage was at the beginning before any of them. And so it was, you know, a hardship on us, but I think it also like motivated us and prepared us for, okay, this isn't a sure thing. And you know, let's be ready and be healthy and whatever. So I think that helped with our just mindset.
Yeah. And I think that there's lots of different, you know, just like there are people that one kid is the right choice for them. There's lots of different age gaps and configurations, and 1 girl and 2 boys or 2, you know, whatever. And, you know, and I think that like, regardless, there's hopefully a sense of peace that you can have about Like when your family is done and when you're ready for your family to be done, that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
And that
yeah.
there may be things that your kid would like to change or would wish for a brother like you did.
Right.
You know, but
Well, even still, and like you said, since they all went, every other one, it's still there a 4-year age gap between
right.
each,
Right. The
one.
girls. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even Saya and Obi, so.
Yeah. So, so I don't say that to say like, oh, you should have another to, have a playmate or whatever. But that was just something
no,
that
that's like a 3-year plan. If you're gonna have a playmate, it takes 3 years before the youngest one becomes an actual.
And
playmate,
I also don't think that that's quite frankly, I think that in some ways could be very selfish as a parent. If it was like, well, I want to have another one, like so that they have somebody else to entertain them.
Yeah, that's a 3 year. That's
not
a 3 to 18-year plan. So.
It's not a good reason to have another kid.
Right.
But it's just something that for Josh and I both kind of was something that we had talked about and that was important to us. And I think too, I just always kind of felt, I've always been very maternal to everything, like whether that be animals or, even my friends, I kind of was like often the mom of our friend groups. When I was in high school, I always ended up being the like mom in our musicals because I just mother everything, whether they want or need mothering or not. That's just always kind of a role that I've instinctively sort of tried to fill.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, and I can't really help it. It's, annoyed some of my friends and things like that. It just is sort of my nature. And so we also talked a lot about the fact that, we wanted a big family, but likely that would be including foster kids or adoption or something of that nature. Because
into those roles and things and whatever.
Because it is something, again, looking back at the expansion pack, like once they, it was kind of an emergency situation that we stepped up and said like, yeah, we can help with this. But once we did that, it again was kind of that confirmation of like, we've talked about this before, but absolutely being able to step in and provide that stable, safe place, and those needs and those experiences is what we want to do, what we're meant to do.
Well, and that's why, which I know we'll probably talk about it later, but Haventree is the name that we gave this home and this space because of that mentality.
Of wanting to be a haven. To
be a haven for a large family or other people or however we want to
animals,
pursue that.
Or, whatever.
Right. So, that's why it's Haventree Podcast and not any other name, but, that's what we're sticking
because
with.
we do want it. Yeah.
So hopefully you're listening and you feel like you're in a haven listening to us. So
yeah. So, so it is something that like even as a child, I've just kind of always adopted that maternal role. And I, quite frankly, I don't thrive in chaos and loud. I need a break from that. So
see, and that's where I come in because I was gonna say I don't think my friends would say I mothered them or
no, probably not.
Anyway of that sort.
No.
I was more. I want to tell myself that I was like leader / secondary follower leader.
Josh was an instigator of.
I was like the first one jumping off the boat,
humor
and jumping into the lake.
And trouble.
Yeah, and like let's go do this thing.
Josh is an instigator.
Let's go get this mischievous and create some fun stories and whatever. So.
But instigator of fun too. I say that like it's a bad thing, but I think ultimately you are an instigator of like, let's try this.
Horrible organizer, but great at spontaneous fun. So
yeah, and it's part of the reason that we work so well together.
Right.
Is because of that dynamic of I am not that way. I
can't party plan. I will tell you there's a party and I will have fun there.
He will invite all the people and everybody will want to come to the party because Josh is going to be there, but don't let him plan it or else it will be lame.
Like what happened?
I will not decide that there's going to be a party. I will not invite people to the party. I will not be the interesting person at the party. But I will plan a great party, and there will be food.
She'll be there at least until 9:30. 9:30, she might disappear.
Food and stuff to do. Yeah.
So
we do work well together in that way. And again, that's kind of why I say, like, as we had kids, we saw more and more how our skills, our interests, our abilities, our personalities came together to make a place in a home that was well suited to lots of kids, and it was like we each kind of had this dream individually, and then we met and we got married, and we talked about wanting a big family before we even had our first kid. We were like 5 or 6, was kind of like our standard answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we had kids, it was like this, it was just sort of like with each child we had sort of that confirmation of like, this is, what we want to do. This is why I have this skill, or this is why I have this desire or interest. And then I think too, with each of our kids, it's been interesting to see, like we had Adri, and even though I've been around babies and I've taken care of kids and I babysat and like all of these things, like I was still a nervous mom, very type A, like everything needed to be just so, had to research everything. Mm-hmm. And then Josiah came along. Adri was 21 months old when Sai was born, so not quite 2. And I remember when Sai was born, just thinking like, oh, this, like so many of my stresses or worries about like, am I giving her too much attention? Am I spoiling her? Am I, this or that? Like once Sai came into the picture, it was sort of like it provided balance, it provided sort of the realization of like, the whole world does not revolve around Adri, which is good, I think, and healthy for us as parents to provide that. I think it's important for us to give our kids opportunities and love and attention. But I was consumed with every little tiny choice that I made and whether or not it was right or wrong. And then when Saya came, I couldn't, be so wrapped up in like, what material should the silverware and plates be made out of? Like, I just did my best, I just did my best. When it came to giving them attention and holding them, I just did my best, There were times that the baby cried and I had to hold the baby, and there were times that Adri was potty training and I had to help Adri and I had to put Josiah down and he cried, and it wasn't about like, well, should I hold him or should I not? Like, I've already held him a lot today. Maybe he's going through a growth spurt. Like, I just did the best I could. And it just kind of provided this balance, and it made sort of the flow, like it sounds like it would be harder, but it made me sort of realize like, these are the things that are important. Ooh, these are the things that aren't, and it just provided me sort of that sense of balance and peace that I had been lacking before that. And then Kenzie came along, and it was like, oh, this is what our family was missing, And then Jamie and Ellie came along, and it was like, oh, this is what our family needed, And then Obi came along at a terrible time in our life, and I was very stressed about like, how am I going to take care of a newborn? And Obi came along, and it was like, this is what our family needed right now, And so with every child that we've added, they've brought such a dynamic and sense of joy and new personality and skill and balance to our lives and our family unit, that is just so cool, and it's sort of like makes me think of like, the Bible talks a lot about like the body of Christ, and that the body is made up of lots of different pieces and parts, and that we're given different skills, and those are all meant to work together. And so if the body was made up of like a lot of eyes or a lot of brains and no hearts, then it wouldn't function well, right? And I feel like, we have kind of gotten to experience that in our family too, that all of our kids are so different. They're different from us. They're different from each other. What works parenting for one doesn't work parenting for another. And it's frustrating sometimes. It's overwhelming most of the time. But it's also a really cool and amazing example of this little unit that gets better and stronger, and wiser and I don't know, better. I know I said it, but it's true. With each kid that's added, you know. And no, we're not looking to be the Duggars and have, 20 children and counting. But it is something that each new little person, each new little personality, we're thrilled to meet. And we're thankful for that. And our I think vision, and our intention is that, at some point we're going to be done having kids, maybe in the next 5 years. We probably will be done having kids of our own. And that family unit that we have will be a awesome dynamic team that's able to serve the world, serve others, make a difference. And it will be effective and capable because of all of the skills and talents that each of our kids bring to the table and are a part of. And so, I'm excited, to see what that team looks like as we grow together.
Yeah.
I'm thankful, even though some of the team members are not always good team members. There are days that team members aren't team players.
When they're not team players and they are in an argument and they're fighting over the same toy or the color or whatever it is, I always try to end their argument with like, okay, now apologize and just say we are family. So that way, they stay, I don't know, just a little statement to say. So that way they're like, we're family.
Yeah.
We have to come back to the dinner table. We have to come back and be a part of the family.
Yeah.
So we can't just be like, I'm mad at you, and
I'm out of here.
Go to our corners and our boxes.
Go to your rooms or whatever. Yeah.
You need to, I don't know. Just, I like to have that reminder, like we're family. You can't just continuously be upset at each other. I mean, you're always going to have some frustration. So it happens, but you still need to recognize that you're family at the end of the day. So
yeah. And that is.
We can get into more of that, I think, later this week. So, or next week.
So, other things you want to add? I think once you talked a little and then I got on a roll and I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was sort of like, I was happy with what I had said. So, I was letting you, feel out where you were going with yours.
Yeah.
This was, I don't know, a good topic, good discussion.
Yeah, it's fun.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, do all those things. Share with others since we don't have a good, way to put this out to everybody that needs it. So make sure you send it to anybody you think will enjoy it. Bye.
Bye.